All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for an American Midwest Ballet Talkback, a little behind the scenes with our dancers from some of our most recent Going Solo videos. My name is Hannah Clark, and I will be your humble host for this afternoon. It is snowing like crazy where we are, so if it is where you are, join us, snuggle up in your snow globes, and let's talk about dance for a little bit. Let's go around and meet our fabulous artists we're talking with today. As I prompt you, if you could just say your name, what solo you participated in that we'll be talking about today, and then your role with the company or how long you've been with the company. That kind of makes sense. So let's start off. I have Kogan here in my Zoom screen. So let's start with you, Kogan.
Hi everyone, I'm Kogan Murphy. I'm a company artist, and the piece that I took part in was Tomorrow.
Nice. And Kogan, sometimes we get questions about dancers' education or where they went to school. So could you talk briefly about where you studied dance?
Yeah, so right after high school, I was all set to go to college, and then kind of a spur of the moment thing, which is my theme lately. I decided to audition for the trainee program at Joffrey in Chicago, and I got in, and I felt like it was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. So I spent my training at Joffrey Ballet in Chicago.
Nice. You improvised a little bit there and it worked out well. Fabulous. Thank you. Let's go down Lance.
Hey, I'm Lance. I'm the production manager for American Midwest Ballet, and I was involved with all of these projects. I'm a filmmaker, so I'm kind of been in all of it. So it's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And where did you study dance? I'm kidding. But if you could talk a little bit, very briefly, about how you got involved in production and creating videos.
Well, I went to through the apprenticeship program at the Omaha Community Playhouse, which is a 2-year apprenticeship program, and actually trained in stage management. And then from there, kind of progressed and ended up with the ballet. And I've always had a passion for film and video, so it was just kind of a natural fit to kind of ease into that. So that's
Absolutely. And you
kind of how it
created
started.
a documentary that chronicled the first year of the ballet as a Ballet Nebraska, correct?
I sure did. Yeah, we that first year we filmed it all, so it was a lot of fun. So I think that kind of led up to it too, a kind of a like precursor for it. So
Absolutely. Passion always leads to creation, for sure. Anna, if you could introduce yourself, and then we'll have your special guest on phone also introduce herself.
Sure. My name is Anna Swenson, and I have been dancing with American Midwest Ballet for the past 8 seasons as a company artist. I was lucky enough to work with a really close friend of mine. We grew up dancing together at the same company or at the same school in Spokane, Washington. And my piece that we worked together is Order in the Chaos. And Seneca, who was not able to log on, is actually on my phone, so she will also introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Seneca, and yes, just like Anna said, her and I grew up together at the same ballet studio, so it was so amazing to see her. And my role, of course, Order in the Chaos, was the piece that I worked on with her. And I'm just the choreographer, creator of the piece, and kind of collaborator with Anna.
Absolutely. And Seneca, may I ask, in addition to your work as a choreographer, do you have any other positions in the artistic community or hats that you wear?
A hat that I wear, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of piece that we had created, it was kind of unexpected. So it was a nice surprise. I do lots of things. I actually teach Pilates currently, so that is also kind of been a big role body-wise and just awareness-wise. And also film is kind of my thing. So that's kind of also our little next project with Order in the Chaos. So those are kind of one of a few hats that I wear for artsy things, all things art.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you. And you are calling us from, are you in Seattle or Spokane right now?
I'm in Seattle. I'm actually sitting at a beautiful view. I was hoping to log in to show you guys, but yeah, it's actually nice and sunny here. So I'm thankful for no snow.
Rub it in. Oh, man. Okay. Thank you, Seneca. Kelsey, let's go over to you.
Guys, I'm Kelsey Schwenker. The piece that I created is titled Denouement Escapade. And I'm a founding member of what was Ballet Nebraska, and I was with the company for 10 years.
Nice. And where did you study dance, Kelsey?
I grew up in Boulder, Colorado, and stayed there through high school. And then I have my BFA in ballet performance from the University of Oklahoma in Norman. And straight from there, I moved up here to start my career.
Fantastic. And I apologize, Anna, although you mentioned your home studio where you and Seneca met, I didn't ask where you studied ballet. Would you mind mentioning that?
Of course. I had the opportunity to work with Alberta Ballet after I graduated. It was kind of similar to Kogan's story. It was kind of serendipitous that I had the opportunity to audition for their trainee program for their school. And I was able to also work with them, the company themselves. And then after a year, just auditioned to as many people or as many companies as possible, and got a call back from the artistic director, Erica Overturf, in class actually, and like stepped out and was super excited, and they said yes right away. So I moved from Alberta to Omaha, Nebraska, and have been here since.
And we're so glad you did. And Seneca, I know that you have an interesting journey with dance. Would you mind speaking on your education?
Yeah, I also grew up, Anna and I grew up at Ballet Arts in Spokane, dancing together. I kind of went everywhere a little bit, well, kind of ish. I started in Seattle. I kind of trained with Donald Byrd at the Spectrum studio. He was super crazy, super strict. And then from there, I moved to New York and studied with the Alvin Ailey School. And there got to work with all kinds of cool choreographers and just lots of different styles and collaborations. And yeah, that's kind of where it went from there.
Very cool. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Erica.
Hi, I'm Erica Overturf, Artistic Director of the company, and also choreographer of A Year I Won't Forget. And I studied dance in Dubuque, Iowa, growing up at the Academy of Ballet. I was very fortunate to have a wonderful teacher. And then I went on to train at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, everyone. I know that it can seem like a bit of a formality, but often a lot of the questions that we get before these talkbacks have to do with education. And I find that it's really refreshing for people to see the multiple paths that you can take to become a part of the art form. And that kind of leads us into one of our questions that we do get a lot, and I'm going a little out of order, so excuse me, but it seemed like a natural transition with education. But someone on Facebook asked, I often see that there is a strict timeline for being successful in a certain artistic field. Sometimes I wonder if this is more of a habitual way of looking at it than necessary. Is it possible to be relatively good at ballet having started late? Do you have to start very young in order to be taken seriously? Erica, I wonder, as an artistic director, if you could speak on that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say typically most dancers start pretty young. However, I have certainly worked with amazingly talented dancers that have had a professional career that maybe didn't start until in their teens or sometimes even as late as college age. So I would say, every path is a little bit different. Dance is really hard and, takes a lot of training, but just depending on how it all comes together for you, you can still be very successful and have a rewarding career in dance, even if you do have a later start at it.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Erica. The next question, let's talk about these solos, right? So going solo, there have been about 7 videos so far, 7 solos. The first one we premiered back in October. Erica, can you talk a little bit about the thought process behind this whole project and how it developed?
Absolutely. So, of course, the pandemic has limited our normal activities. We love to all be together in a room, taking class every day, performing live on stage, and with a room full of thousands of people in the theater. That's just not possible right now. And so, one of the things that I have seen over the years is that a lot of times when dancers have the opportunity to work on a solo, they can have a lot of growth in their technique or their artistry, and even with this project as choreographers too. And so I thought with the restrictions on one hand that we're facing during the pandemic, we could turn that into an opportunity to focus on solo work. And I gave the dancers a pretty open parameters as far as deciding what kind of inspired them, what they wanted to share, to help us kind of stay motivated and still keep creating during this time, and sharing the inspiration of dance with our audiences on a regular basis.
Yeah, and growing. I love that. So sharing work on a regular, the whole year round, and then also growing in choreography and dance. That's, I think, really valuable. Let's move then to our first dynamic duo of choreography and dance, Anna and Seneca. So you guys, as you said, met when you were younger. So this collaboration on the solo, can you talk about what inspired that?
It was of happy coincidence that Seneca and myself just were able to get together. We were actually doing a very small class with our former teacher, one of our favorite former teachers. And after class, we had another dancer that was a year or two younger than us, who also decided to stay after. And we just started dancing, just kind of creating. Seneca took the lead on a lot of the movements and the intention behind the piece. But we all put our perception into this piece. We kind of all worked on it together and thought about musicality and intention, like I've said, and why we were doing certain movements. But it wasn't something that was planned at all, which is kind of the beauty in it too, because had things not gone awry, I would have been there earlier in the summer, and Seneca wouldn't have been in town at that point. So
yeah. Sometimes things that cause us stress can also make some great functionality and collaboration. So Seneca, you create this piece, you're working on it with your friends, you're all in the same town, and then one of your dancers leaves and goes back to Omaha, and now you have to, or rather get to, finish that collaboration digitally. Was that the first time that you'd finished a project and choreographed on someone digitally?
Yeah, that was definitely the first time trying to get details through a screen. So that was definitely interesting, working through all the different movements and kind of what Anna was saying, talking about when we do the movement and why we do the movement and what it means. So it was definitely interesting doing it through a screen virtually.
For sure. So the title of your solo, Order in the Chaos, I just love that, as we experience some chaos. And what you said about why we do the movement, when we do the movement, how has dance made some order in this past year's chaos for you?
I think, growing up, we get very conditioned when we start dancing. Some of us start at 4, 5, whenever. But you start to get that, kind of structure of stretching and not just, about dance, but eating healthy. And so you kind of have your own control of what you're doing. And so I think, in this new, now 2021, no more Trump era, thank God, we have during that, there were so many things happening that we couldn't control, and just all this crazy stuff. But with dance, I think it just allows you to really hone in on your craft and just perfect it to how you want it. And that is, your order of what you're able to do in this craziness.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for speaking on that. That was rang true for sure. So Lance, talking about putting some order in the chaos, all of these solos that we're talking about today, they're very different. They take place in different places, different challenges. Kogan's was very urban. Kelsey's was in this beautiful natural space. Erica's was in her house. This solo, Order in the Chaos, was very clean in the dark theater, had a lot of contrast. Can you talk a little bit about the filming process for this?
Sure. Well, we shot it on stage, which was kind of nice because we did have control of the lighting and the look. But I think we, talking with Anna and Seneca and Erica was in on these conversations, we just wanted to look like this void of where she was. So you couldn't really tell that it was a stage, just kind of this black void. And I think it fit so well with the movement and the music. And the lighting designer gave us beautiful lighting for that piece. So it was just a unique experience there and a lot of fun. It was one of the first or second pieces that we did. So first one I think we did on stage, if I remember correct. But yeah, so.
Well, that transitions into actually Kelsey, your piece, I think, was one of the first ones, film-wise, correct, that we did.
It's true, it was in August.
August, wonderful. So your piece was called Denouement Escapade. What a title. Can you talk about what that means to you?
Sure. So I love language and reading and writing. So when I give a title to something, I want it to have meaning, but to also sound interesting. So I liked that the words were of similar lengths and that they had the same syllables. So it just kind of rolls off your tongue in a nice way. Denouement means an end or a sort of resolution. And I think the definition actually says where the strands of the plot come together, which I think is really beautiful. And escapade is an act with daring or excitement or adventure. So when I thought of our scenery and where we were, it was just this frolic through this beautiful, lush landscape. So it's sort of a resolution adventure.
Resolution adventure. I love that. Yeah, when I think of escapades, I think of like spies or pirates, or those are the kind of people who have escapades. And this was your last project with American Midwest Ballet before you retired, correct?
It was.
We miss you.
I miss you.
But originally you were going to close out your tenure with the company by doing a performance of Swing, 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 right? The first show that you started this in the company as a founding member on, and of course, COVID. So can you talk a little bit about ending your career with AMB on this solo? How was that?
So, right, I had thought about my retirement for a few years and what would be the best avenue for that, what that would mean to me. And I knew that Erica had intended on doing swing again at some point. And so that just seemed like the perfect thing. And as life tells you all the time, best laid plans, you can make something that you want to be perfect and nothing really ever is. You just have to sort of ride the waves. So when I knew that the show wasn't going to happen in April, and then the next opportunity we rescheduled, it wasn't going to happen, I'd already sort of thought of doing a film project because I know Lance loves to collaborate on those sorts of things, and I've done some other things with him. So I was already thinking of doing a project like this before I knew about the going solo.
That's fantastic. I'm so glad that you did it and you included it in this series. One of the aspects that really intrigued me was a collaboration you did with many other dancers. The portion of the piece where you sit down, you're doing this choreography, and there's a bunch of screens of other dancers doing it with you. Why did you choose that?
So during the summer, I took a lot of walks around and just had music on shuffle, sort of. And this piece came back to me. I had seen another person choreograph to it years ago, and it just has this sort of sweeping movement to it. So I realized that I could do a solo for myself, but because I didn't get that last experience with everyone else, that sort of camaraderie on stage, I wanted to involve everyone with me as well. And that's actually the part of watching the premiere that made me cry. So, I've had a lot of people ask me in the last 8-10 months, do you miss it? And it's a yes and no sort of answer. I do miss the physicality of it and the artistry, but the people are really what I miss. And so to even just have that way to have them with me, but not actually personally with me, meant a lot.
Absolutely. It got me. I was tearing up. Was it challenging to choreograph a bunch of people to do it on their phones?
Well, so I knew that I wanted to do something that would be pretty stationary so that people weren't like flying out of the film space. So I just sat in the living room right over there on the couch and decided how much movement could I do that would be arms or torso that could then keep everyone in their own frame, sort of like a Brady Bunch situation. And I said, you can film it anywhere, just make sure you're sitting on a bench or a chair. And so I loved people were in their living rooms, they were outside, they were in a park, they were everywhere. So let them have a little freedom with that as well.
Absolutely. Lance, let's pop to the film side for a second. How was working with all of those different submissions?
It was a little tricky. It was a little challenging to try to get everything lined up and timed correctly with the music, but it worked out really nice. It looks really good. It looks, the setting and the way that we kind of laid it out.
I think the end product, the juice was worth the squeeze, as they say, because the end product is beautiful. Awesome. Thank you, Kelsey. We did have a question from social media. So Kelsey, we're talking about the physicality. And this question comes from Kayla. And she asks, how do you protect your body from the injuries and damage that come from a career that is so physical? So all of you, can speak to this, so if you have anything to contribute. But I just thought since Kelsey is retired and you made it through with your legs intact, you could speak to that.
Yeah, of course. So dance is very much a sport. It's not necessarily competitive, but what we're doing on a daily basis is very active. And fortunately, throughout the years, we've had a lot of really great practitioners that are there to help us, chiropractors and physical therapists, and that is a huge part of what keeps us healthy. Of course, for your body, getting the right fuel and making sure you're sleeping are totally essential. And knock on something, I never had any serious injuries, which was sort of something for me retiring. I wanted to make sure it was my decision. It wasn't something that forced me to retire. So I feel pretty lucky that that's how it panned out for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anybody else have anything to add on that?
I would just say that I feel really fortunate because both Erica and the rest of our artistic staff, they're extremely understanding. Like there's days where we just have some aches and pains, but anytime I've ever had a muscle or something that doesn't feel right, it's been a really safe environment for me to just approach, the teacher of the day or whoever's running rehearsals and just kind of tell them what's going on. Not all companies feel that way where you can approach them and let them know something's going on. So I feel like I've been really fortunate to prevent any serious injuries, knock on wood, of course, in the past couple of years, just because I feel like I'm in an environment where I can take a second if I'm, hurting at all.
Yes, take care of your artists. I love that. Erica, did you have something you wanted to add?
Oh, ice.
Ice!
That fixes a lot of stuff. It's funny, but over the years, there's all sorts of aches and pains and things that happen, but many times, ice it, it'll fix a lot of things. It won't fix everything, but it helps.
There we go. Throw yourself in the snow. Get out there. Well, Erica, moving to your solo, we get to talk to you today, not just as artistic director, but also as a creator of a solo this time. So a year I won't forget. It certainly was. Can you talk a little bit about what inspired this piece?
Sure. I was not planning on doing a solo, but I was in the car listening to a podcast and it was about Y2K. And during the story, this song came on, A Year I Won't Forget. I was listening to it and just right away, I'm like, oh, this song is perfect. This is so fitting for this year. And right away, I could envision a piece around that theme. So it was sort of, New Year's Eve. Um, and just saying goodbye to this year that has been unlike any other that we've ever had. And, just a way to kind of go through the emotions that we've had. And then let's put this one away. Let's say goodbye, type of thing. So,
Mhm.
some of the lyrics that caught my attention too, other than the really retro feel of the song, which I'm drawn to, but Happy New Year, baby. It's been a year I won't forget. That's certainly true this year. Another one was I pray a year from today we'll be embracing in the same old way. And, with not being able to be together in person, to touch, and all of those things, that certainly seemed a very fitting for this year as well. So let's hope we can be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those also stood out to me, certainly. And shout out to dogs. Your dog, Molly, right, made an appearance in the solo. And then Kogan, you have your dog back there, a little guest. Oh,
We love dogs and pets and kids at American Midwest Ballet. And so, yeah, in this solo, I think, it's one of those things like when you go through something sad or you're feeling down or anything like that, who's there for you? Your dog is always there for you no matter what. So, and she also has some stage experience. She was in the Nutcracker one year. So it was up to the task. So that was fun
so
to
she
have.
has like a IMB dog page with all of the credits.
Yeah, she was a good girl.
Well, she was. Well, dogs and children notoriously hard to work with on film. So, Lance, can you talk a bit about filming this piece, which, for those of you listening who have never taken on a film project, A Year I Won't Forget is challenging not only for the presence of a dog, but it was one continuous shot, which means that you did not break film, but rather like danced with Erica around her kitchen. Can you talk a little bit about that, Lance?
Sure. Well, it wasn't, the original idea wasn't to do it in one take. Even the night or the day of the filming, we were talking about different shots and where to set up for different things. But the more we started to do it and talk through it, I was like, boy, this would be really cool if we could do it in one take. And I think Erica was like, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do it. But it was challenging because here I hadn't even seen it up until that point that we were actually filming. And so we had to basically I had to learn the choreography or where she was going to go so that I could move and get out of her way and vice versa. So it was challenging, but I think we must have done it. I bet we did it 10 times before we got it perfectly right, but it was a lot of fun. It was challenging, but it was fun.
It looks very good. And we spoke about something prior to this, was that the light engineering on that, you had to splice up the film in order to edit because the lights change a lot as you like switch between the moods of the kitchen and the living room.
Right. So it was one take. So when you get into edit, you have this one continuous take, which sounds okay, that's easy. It's pretty self-explanatory, but you do have to go in and color correct and change some things in post-production. So I did have to split it up every time we would change a room. So I had to cut it basically 7 different times, I think is what it was. But just to make those adjustments. But very quick turnaround on that one. We shot it on Friday night, and by Sunday we had it, I think, pretty much finished. So it was fast and furious.
Amazing. We're so lucky to have you, Lance. It's fantastic. So now let's move on to Kogan's piece. Another interesting one, I understand, both from the film and editing side and the creation. So Kogan, your piece Tomorrow was improvised largely. Can you talk about that choice and that process?
Yeah, so it wasn't really a super hard decision to improvise. As most dancers are, I'm super moved by music. So anytime I'm at the grocery store and I hear music, or pretty much anywhere, like I'll just bust into some kind of weird dance moves. Probably embarrass my family a lot. But, um, I was in the studio and I kept trying to choreograph this piece, and it's one of my favorite songs. And I just kept changing it, and I kept liking what I was doing and changing and changing. So I finally just decided to improvise. Um, and it was really cool because there's just a lot of freedom there. So I kind of just told Lance all my ideas, and he's incredible. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So we just picked a bunch of awesome places in the Old Market area, downtown Omaha, that just kind of felt right to me. And I think we did it on like a Sunday night, like dinner time. There was people. It was the most beautiful day, like a great breeze, and there was people like sitting outside eating, like totally watching us do this. But it was a really cool experience.
Wow. Yeah, it does. It sort of reads as like this love letter to Omaha. I'm curious about the title Tomorrow. Why did you select that one?
Um, it's interesting because, um, this past year for everyone has been so crazy. And, um, like I'm sure a million other people, there was some really difficult times and days and challenges throughout 2020 for me personally. And um, I think just the mentality of, there's always tomorrow. Like tomorrow will be better. Tomorrow's a new day, a new opportunity. Or if you have a long list of things that you didn't get done, there's always tomorrow. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's just kind of like a mentality of keep moving forward, keep moving on, keep going, keep pushing through.
I love that. Thank you. So, Lance, Kogan comes to you and says, I'm going to improvise this all over Omaha. How did that go? What was that like to engineer?
Well, the filming process was really fun and pretty, I don't want to say simple, but because we were chasing the light and everything else, we knew we wanted to get to certain shots by sunset, so we were kind of chasing the light there. But we had kind of talked through what our ideas were. We had a pretty good idea. Um, but the interesting thing is that here she was out, in the Old Market and the bridge and everywhere else, but she danced all that without any music. We didn't have any music going at all. She just kind of improvised a bunch of movements. So we're running from place to place, and I remember asking her, I said, well, do you want certain movements with certain parts of the song? And she's like, no, just put it together however it looks good, I think is what she said. So I was like, wow, this will be fun. So
Wow. So you choreographed the dance too by like laying it to music after the fact.
well, I don't know about choreographing it. I don't want to take any credit there. But I did enjoy the the process, and I appreciate Kogan trusting me to put it together how it looked good. So it was a lot of fun.
This has been a season of incredible collaborations for sure. That's very impressive, and I think that the end product of all of these really speaks to that. We are running a little over time, so I want to be respectful of everyone's time, but I did want to do this last question, which came to us from social media, and it's sort of a love letter to ballet, and it is, what is your favorite thing about ballet? At the end of the day, why do you put so much of yourself into it? So I open the floor to anyone who would like to contribute a couple words of wisdom.
Resounding silence from everybody. I mean, it's sort of a profound question that's hard to answer.
Yeah.
Like, in a way, I mean, just simply, I would say I love it. I just think it's like for those of us that dance and this is our life, it's just something that you love, and it's really a lot of hard work, but It's just something that you love to do and be involved in.
Yeah, even as I was asking the question, I sort of had this 1,000-yard stare moment where it's like, why do they put so much of themselves into it? It's like asking, why does water run, right? Like, why does the sun shine? You're like, it just does.
It feels really good to move to music. Like if when I heard that question, I was thinking of doing Tombe Padabu Reg Lisa Soda Shot. Just that feeling of moving through space and it's fun.
Mhm.
Kind of expanding on that idea of moving through space, when you are doing at the end of a class or doing something across the stage that's like ground allegro, it is so liberating to just put yourself out there, and you really connect to the role by the end of the rehearsal process. And when you get to that final stage of performing and you get to share the whole revelation that you personally went through, and that is now a product that everyone can watch and perceive, and it's open interpretation. Like it's just your emotions, your raw emotions in that role. And I cannot think of something that's so arduous but so fulfilling at the end of the day, when you're just dead tired after a show and all you want to do is just like sleep, and you can't decide between eating or sleeping. But it's so fulfilling. It makes me smile thinking about those days that I took for granted, because not having that for a year now shows how much I find purpose in that career and performing and being around the people that I love to perform with. So yeah, it was, when you first said the question, I was like, oh my gosh, so many emotions. It's really not, no one knew this was coming. And so it was very abrasive that all of a sudden, like in a split second, it was over, and there was no foresight to know exactly when it was going to be coming back. Like, when are we going to be able to be together again? There was no answer. So
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing all of that beautiful, vulnerable emotion, Anna. I think that you speak for many, many artists participating and watching with those words. So thank you all so much for gathering amidst the chaos, amidst the snow, to talk about those beautiful days and these beautiful projects. I really look forward to what is in the future for all of us here today. Thank you to everyone on social media who asked questions. Please be sure to check out the rest of the Going Solo series coming out. I believe there might be a next one on February 29th. Keep a watch there. Remember to subscribe and get notifications on the YouTube page. We have Instagram, we have a Facebook. Send us an email, tie something to a pigeon. However you want to do it, just make sure it doesn't get lost in the snow. Thank you guys so much for coming and speaking today. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.